Welcome to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share. All ideas, thoughts, and statements are those of the guest and the host of Echo Oscar Delta, and not of Navy EOD or Navy as a whole. Today we have Jacquelyn Read. She did 21 years in the Navy, retired as a senior chief, deployed 8 times all over Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Jerome. Thanks for having me. It's really great what you're doing here. So, pleasure to be on.
Yeah. I'm excited because we actually started our EOD career together.
Yes.
I should say.
Yes.
But before EOD, you did some fleet time, didn't you?
Yes, I did 6 years. 6 years as a Chinese linguist.
That's awesome. That's right. I always knew you're smart.
Ugh, no, just young. Our
Just
brains
young.
are still ready to develop and learn stuff easier.
That's awesome. How was that?
So it was interesting. It wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
I didn't come from a military background at all. And so I just knew I wanted to be in the military some way, some fashion. I tried Marines first.
Okay.
And they just, this is pre 9/11, and they were just like, they said some stuff that I'm like, okay, this is not going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
But I wanted the sword. I wanted to be, I'm like, this is the uniform. They looked the most in shape, and it was like hardcore. And I'm like, so then this like fat Navy recruiter comes out. And I'm like, really? He's like stress testing his Navy whites. He's like receding hairline. I don't know. And I'm like, And he's like, let me just tell you about the world and where you can travel. And I grew up in the country, and I'd always wanted to like go be a surfer, right? So I'm like, well, in the Navy, you get to be by the water and the ocean. So let's just sit down and hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
And he kind of went through the flip book of like different jobs. And of course they're trying to get you on just do undesignated and see everything.
Yeah.
And I almost fell for it.
Oh, my goodness, you didn't.
I know. But then I like see this cryptologic technician job. And there's analysts, there's one that's like tech, there's one that's networking, and there's one that's interpreter. And I'm like, oh, cool. You get to learn a language in Monterey, California for a year and a half. Well, check, that gets me to California.
Yeah.
Maybe I can become a surfer finally. And learning a language seemed pretty cool, at the time. And so, yeah, so I was like, let me just take the D-Lab and let's go for it. And then I'm at boot camp, and I do remember the dive motivators coming. Do you remember that when they would come? Uh-huh. And you're like, wait a second. No one talked about these jobs.
Right.
And these guys, I just remember they had these blue shirts on. I don't know, probably they're black silky shorts or whatever. They're all bronze in shape. Their hair is a little bit longer. Yeah. They had this glow about them. And I'm like, huh. And I look around, I'm like, okay, everyone else looks like the Navy recruiter that sold me this gig, right? So I'm just like, well, why are they so happy? And they started talking about, the team, if you like sports. And this was, again, pre 9/11, so the biggest thing they could talk about was sunbathing on the aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
But however, I'm just like, okay, everyone is chipping paint, and they get to go lay out and work out in the sun. Yes.
Yeah.
And I just remember jumping up there because they're like, okay, volunteer, or if you want to do this, there's like a PST, and come to bring your service records to one of these lines. I don't know if you remember that. Mm-hmm. And so I jump into this line, and I get there, and they're like, you cannot do this job. It was a Navy SEAL job. I'm like, well, that one seemed really cool. And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, what can I do? Like, what's the next hardest thing? And they're like, EOD for sure. Yeah. And they're like, I'm like, what is EOD, right? And they're like, just get in this line. And so I go to the line and hear a little bit more about it and do those morning PSTs. Mm-hmm. But I admit I chickened out at the end because they said you have to pick a different rate than CTI. And I think it was like aviation mechanic or something.
Yeah.
And I'm not mechanically inclined. Even though later on, we'll go 7 years later, I had to learn that. But so I ended up backing out of picking a new rate. I was just like uncomfortable with that at the moment. And then went to, language school But 9/11 happened during boot camp.
Yeah.
And I remember that definitely switched my mindset. So even though being a linguist was a great way to start, and I think maturity-wise, I don't think I was ready to go to EOD at 18.
Yeah.
So I'm actually thankful for getting a little bit of grow-up time.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have handled it. So it was kind of perfect the way it worked out. I had time to, grow up a little bit, be in the fleet, go to Hawaii, have a wonderful life, and thought life's too easy. It's time to go back and try out for EOD. So that's how that worked out.
That's awesome. I think there's probably a handful of people I can think of by name that probably should have had a little bit of free time to grow up. And
it's kind of crazy when you think about we're all, joining at 18, like institutionalized, and we do it, and then we're the ones mentoring these other 18-year-olds,
right?
And it's like we're the blind leading the blind. It's kind of nuts, but it works out.
It does,
because everyone has this purpose that I don't think we're cut from the same cloth. You know what I mean? And so somehow it works out. I mean, as dysfunctional as it is, it's still family, it's home, and I think it's kind of cool how that continues on throughout your, decades later.
Yeah, I agree. When were you able to try out for EOD, and like how that process worked?
Okay, so I'm approaching, because when I did the linguist job, you had to do 6-year contract. And I remember at that time you got a bonus, so I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
It's like 10 grand. Yes. But then I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here. Everyone's like playing Dungeons and Dragons. We're in this underground tunnel. It was like, holy cow.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah. There you go. Hawaii was cool, but then I remember going to the CTI detailer, and it was time to pick orders or do something. And I'm like, okay, I want to go try out for EOD. And they're like, women don't do EOD. Because I was at this this intel command, and they didn't even know about special warfare or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, they can. Look it. I know they can. And so they're like, okay, well, I guess here's Det Medpac was the shore det in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. So they're like, call these people. So we worked as an intel, or with linguists, we worked with civilians, right?
Okay.
And military. It was joint command. So military-wise, it wasn't rank. It wasn't show up 15 minutes before. It was very laxed.
Yeah.
So I call this senior chief.
Hey, bro.
Pretty much. He's like, what the fuck, dude? Who is this? And then I'm like, this is not a good start. But they can't say no, because I'm going to go try out. So he's like, yeah, meet me here at this time in your dress whites. And I show up on time, which is late, which I found out the hard way. And it was, I just remember thinking like, okay, am I really wanting to do this? Because they're just like, what are you doing? You know? But it made me want to do it even more. And so at the time, it's called mud pupping. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Did you remember mud pupping?
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, all right, I passed the PST initial one. So they're like, okay, you can mud pup for, I think it was like 2 months, TAD I got.
Okay, nice.
And my command blessed off on that as well. And so I'll never forget this. It was like showing up there were 2 other mud pups, and we showed up for another initial PST, because I did one separate, did an interview with I think he might have been a chief, Dom Frankie. Do you remember him?
Dom Frankie. The name sounds super familiar.
Yeah. I remember him going to Italy maybe after.
Okay.
Yeah. But I just remember, showing up. He had, a muscle tank top on. He was built pretty well. He had this protein shake. So it's like that that iconic smell of bodybuilder shit. Like he's shaking his protein. To stop there's girls everywhere. Like, did they do this on purpose?
Right.
And I'm just like, smelling the oatmeal, the protein, testosterone, girls. I'm like, what am I doing, dude? But I went into your club because you guys look like you're having a lot of fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of shit going on out there in the country right now. I need to be part of this. I'm not going to be underground anymore. So, So let's see. I'm all over the place. It's kind of funny because I'm remembering.
Yeah, it's all just flooding back.
Yeah. So then initial interview goes okay. Then we show up to a PST with the other 2 guys who were mud pupping. And I did not know that there's a specific uniform with black shorts and the brown t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
How are we supposed to know this?
Yeah.
So I show up again, like not understanding the 15 minutes is late thing. Like it's the 10 o'clock. I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock.
When will you learn?
Yeah. Plus or minus 1 minute. No, it's like, yeah, I'll tell you later. Later on, we'll get how I learned this.
Okay.
But anyways, I remember showing up and I had these, like Roxy blue board shorts and this like Volcom crop top, you know, just I thought that's what you work out on.
Yeah.
Because the command I was in, that's what we worked out in anyways.
Yeah.
Whatever no one worked out at the CTIs. Come on. So
Right.
that's like, what do we do? And then everyone is just so squared away. They have the brown t-shirts and the black, you know, silky shorts. And they just look at me like, get down. Like, and I was just like, and so this was before the PST, and it's so funny because I talked to the guys who were there too, and they're like, dude, we thought you were an EOD tech already. You just waltzed in here, like, with your board shorts and your flip-flops, your hair's all over the place. Who are you? Like, I'm just trying to play, guys. Like, so I just remember, like, a pool of sweat from, like, my hands giving out. Like, I was like, this is not a good way to start. These guys hate me already. And now it's, like, strike 4 at this point. But then it was all, then they did the PSD, and they're actually pretty cool. Because the big thing I think was the pull-ups, right? Especially for girls, for women. They're like, can you do pull-ups? So I just remember feeling pretty good at the time with strength-wise, and then that got my ticket in to continue the Mud Pup.
Yeah.
And get their mentorship, but it was pretty good.
That's awesome.
One of the funniest stories, because at the time I was really into like triathlons, running, swimming, surfing, kite surfing. So body weight stuff is good, but strength wise wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I always remember just being like flaunting a little bit with running, like okay, these guys, like, let me just laugh and talk while they're dying, because Chief Frankie or Senior Chief Frankie's over there, you know, benching whatever 400 pounds. He can't run. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think he's like, you know, he's like, this chick, dude. Let's show her. Let's just like show her the whole, I guess, different things that we need to do to prepare our bodies for EOD.
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. It was they had these, you know, the inner 155 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And how much do those weigh? 90 pounds ish?
Yeah, they're pretty.
They're heavy.
They're pretty heavy.
It's just kind of awkward, right?
Yep.
And if you don't do strength or any kind of explosive stuff, it's like you got to really get into it. You know?
Exactly.
There's a technique to lifting these things. And I just remember him like lift this. And I was at a high because I was feeling pretty good physically, you know, and he's like, I'm going to smack you down, new mud pup girl. Like, come on. And so he's like, pick this up. And I'm like thinking I could, you know, bro, it wouldn't even budge. And he's like, we're not leaving until you pick this up. And I'm like,
Oh God.
like, wow, okay. And I'm like trying, you know, and one of the other mud pups was like, let me help her. He's like, do not touch it, you know? And I'm,
We'll figure this out.
You will figure it out. I think I even remember like trying to like prop it. I think I took my shirt off and like tried to like tie a knot on it, try to get it up. And as soon as it got like up on my shoulder, then I'm like, this is real.
Yeah.
And it changed my mindset too. Like, this is real. There's real shit going on. Like, you have to morph your body. If you want to play and do this and be part of this community, you have to show up in this manner.
Yeah.
And so as much as he kind of annoyed me, he taught me this huge lesson back then. And I just focused on that, and luckily I was had some other linguists. They were all bud studs actually, but they were cool because they knew how to train in a way that I didn't know with weights, and so they, you know, helped me show up to dive school pretty prepared. But I would never have gotten that had he had Frankie. Wherever you are, Frankie, thank you. Even though I don't know if you liked me or not, but thank you for helping shape my you know, my mindset actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. I know, you know, it's been brought up a few times that I used to be a good runner, but when I was a good runner, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's 3 feathers in a row. Like, I can pick up one at a time. That's about it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could run really fast.
You were so fast.
But I'm super weak.
You were so fast. I remember that in dive school. Like, you were, wow. Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I had to do the same thing. I was like, wait, you're going to be like, you don't just get off a helicopter and run with nothing on and then like karate chop people. Like
Right.
you've got body armor and kit and a weapon and a sidearm and then all of the gear that you need when you actually show up and like,
Right.
okay, well, and then if somebody goes down, you got to be able to pick them up and drag them. And like, not everybody has to be, the 300-pound Jacque dude. Right.
Right.
But you have to be able to have at least a basic,
Yes.
normal set of strength that can solve that, at least the body dragging portion,
Totally.
lifting up the ordnance. Cause
Totally.
yeah.
And it's interesting too, because I don't remember, we were all kind of like, I think CrossFit came out around that time, which had some benefits, but we were all kind of figuring it out, and like certain people were really strong. Like, what are you doing? Or they're really explosive. And you're like, how are you programming? But we didn't have access to what everyone has now.
Right.
And mobility and all that. I'm like, wow, it would have been amazing to have this 20 years ago.
Dude. Yes.
But it's cool to...
It probably would have solved a bunch of injuries for us too.
100%.
Because we were 100% just making it
Just go. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how to lift this correctly.
Yeah.
But once you figure it out, you're like, oh, it's all technique. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was cool though. It's cool to kind of pioneer that a little bit with like operationalizing your workouts to fit real operations.
Yeah.
Operational
Absolutely.
readiness, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
When you went to EOD school, so
Yeah.
we did get to spend a little time there,
Yes.
but you went dive prep. It was dive prep.
Mm-hmm.
Were you in were we in dive prep together?
We had a huge class party at our dive prep, to which I was late for the next muster, and I thought I was going to end my EOD career right then and there.
I thought you learned the lesson.
No, that's not till way later.
Okay, fair enough. I don't think we did that. Okay. In my dive prep, we got released and then we got called back.
Okay.
And there were certain people that were already flying away because apparently the code for getting released was don't leave until midnight.
Really?
Yeah. So different dive prep class.
Okay.
But yeah, then dive school. How did you like dive school?
I loved dive school.
Yeah.
I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I just loved everything, every minute of it. Yeah. It was just fun. It was just fun. It was fun to learn to dive.
Yeah.
I liked I'm weird. I liked the pool hits. I loved them. I loved it. I'm like, bring it. It just reminded me of being in like a wave. And I loved the harder they went. I'm like, it was just cool, man. I just really liked every aspect of dive school. I liked the camaraderie. I liked the group, the energy we had. I think, what's that movie? Like 300.
Oh, yeah.
That came out right around the same time. So everyone was like,
just getting at
yeah.
Yep.
It felt like Spartan, It just felt cool. And even then, just doing some of the searches, it was fun because it was challenging, like you're like, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
This is a little scary, but I can't say I'm scared.
Right. I felt the same way, just so you know.
But it's like our buddy lines are so fucking far away. 10 feet? Like, get over here, man. Let me hold your hand and let's do the search the right way. Otherwise, we're going to be opposing each other.
Right.
And it's like, we're going to just tangle up. So it's just like, let's just grab hands and do this. We'll get done really quickly and we won't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't tell anybody. But, because it's like, otherwise, stuff, random fin's going to hit your face and you're like, is that a shark or what?
100%.
You know what I mean? But you can't speak these fears.
Right. Yeah, you just have to internalize them, push them back, and continue on.
Yeah. And so that's funny, but I loved it. And then I think one part was really funny. I don't know. I don't think anything's inappropriate for your podcast, but we can edit it later. But
Go for it.
So this was like, okay, as a woman going through, I was not menstruating anymore because I lost a lot of body fat, right? We're working out all the time. So this was great. Didn't have to worry about any of that. It's like wonderful. Until one day.
Uh-oh.
And we wear these stupid UDT shorts.
Yeah.
Not a good color for us during certain times of the month. And I'm just like, what happened? I had forgotten how to tie a bowl and knot.
Okay.
Dumb. And I forgot why we splashed. And then I just remember just couldn't, like, I froze, and my dive buddy was Josh Clark.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, laughing too. And I'm like, Josh, I can't dive. I forgot. And then the instructors were, like, yelling. But I thought it was even funnier because what are they going to do? They're jumping in here.
Yeah.
So I'm just, like, taking my time, having a good old laugh about not being able to tie this bull. And he comes and ties it for me, which is embarrassing. But they're just like, couldn't believe that we thought this was funny.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, wow, still there's nothing they can do. And then pretty soon, all the yelling stops because you go under. That's why I think I love dive school.
Yeah.
Because when you're down there, you're in your own world.
Yes,
and you're at
absolutely.
your own pace. And it's your own timeline, you know, and you're your own company commander, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. So we're down there, we're doing like whatever, Jack's Day, circle line search, whatever they had us do then. And we came up, and I completely thought they forgot about it because I'm like, oh, we crushed this. Hands underneath, we lose each other. But anyways, we crushed it. We got up, washed out, and then they're like, hey, there were these 2 buckets of rope, and they're like, hey, you're on this, tie a bull in right hand, tie a bull in left hand, tie a bull in blindfolded, and they would just beat us in between. And at first it was like, okay, well done, this is a really good punishment, but then it was like, this isn't funny anymore. It's like 2 hours into this thing, and I'm like, whoa, I'm kind of getting nervous here. Like, maybe I should have laughed. And like, people in the class were randomly coming up like, are you guys good? And then anytime someone came up, they'd go down too. And then I just felt like such an asshole because I got Josh in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm the worst buddy ever. So then, like, everyone's done dive side wise. You know how we had the mandatory study hall?
Yep.
We're like encroaching on study hall time. So this is like nonstop beating.
Yeah.
You know? I just remember, like, our UDT shorts are now falling off. Like, we're getting it.
That's how you know it's a good one.
And then here's how you really know it's a good one.
Uh-oh.
So then, all of a sudden I look, and our cadre, like, it's like their faces turned a little bit white.
Yeah.
And then just stopped. All of a sudden, they're like, and they asked me if I was okay. I'm like, they never ask if I'm okay.
Right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, not really, but fine. And they're like, okay, go to study hall. And then we start running, and Josh is like, you're bleeding. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. But they're more embarrassed than I am right now. And I was embarrassed, but they were even more. They didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Didn't know what to do with it. So reported back to the class, obviously, because they're like, okay, you guys are still alive. You're still in the class. This is good. Good news.
Right.
I'm bleeding everywhere, but it's cool. They just induced fucking menstruation. No big deal. So then the next day we had grinder PT. It was like one of those like deck of cards PTs. Uh-huh. And then it's like, oh, of course, it's like a face card with some like burpees or something horrible. I just remember someone's like, Jackie, get your period. And then everyone just started laughing. And then they didn't even know what to do with this because they're like, clearly you getting your period will stop everything. Like they're afraid of this.
Yeah.
This is to our advantage. Now we actually like having a woman in class.
You're like willing it.
Yeah, please start. They like didn't even know what to handle, how to handle it. Like the class was completely disrupted and everything was just funny, you know, and it was just made it really fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have to laugh.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
Just have to. And so I just remember that being like the most embarrassing thing, but I was like, it's more embarrassing for everyone else, but it was just fun.
Yeah.
So that part was really fun.
I feel like that is probably the biggest point where you're either like, you take it like you did,
Yeah.
which is like, oh my God, this is embarrassing, but boom, owning it, like
Yeah, I have to.
moving on.
Yeah.
Or you're like, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
it's like one or the other. Yeah, totally.
Oh my goodness. I am not going to title it this, but in fairness, you're the one who said it. It would be hilarious to title this episode "The Beating Induced Menstruation." Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
I know, it was pretty funny. Because I had forgotten about this.
Yeah.
And then it just started. And it was like, okay, whether it's the depth we were at, this or whatever, all coming together, like, but it did save us from the rest of the beaching session because I don't think we were going to be done with that session. So it did save us.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was cool. So that was fun. And then EOD school hits, and I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is hard, dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I
A very
struggled.
different hard.
Whoa, yeah. Yeah, that put me in check big time.
Yeah, which this is an interesting thing. Since you went to learn Chinese first, and that's supposed to be like the hardest language, right?
Yeah.
I also imagine that it's the hardest language because it's mentally challenging. How was EOD school mentally challenging compared to that?
So that's a great question. It was very different.
Yeah.
Because it was like different parts of my brain needed to be working. And I found very quickly, early on, the mechanical side of my brain, the math, the science, the EOD side was shitty. Like, and I'm like, damn, dude,
Awesome.
this is not good. But the, creativity side was okay. The language side, the reading comp was fine. But the bread and butter of our job was not like the neural pathways weren't completely firing there. But I did know how to study because that's what language school taught me.
Okay.
Was how to study. Because I don't think I really, because high school's a joke, right? Like school's a joke. So that was the first time I'm like, oh, I have to study or else I'm going to kicks its feet or it goes to the fleet kind of thing.
Yeah.
This was like, no, I have to actually study. And I learned in language school how to study the right way. So then I applied that to EOD school. And it sucked because I was like, I just remember seeing the guys in my class were just there mentally. Like they could see how things worked mechanically. They could already rig mechanical advantages in their brain before we even stepped up to any problems. They knew how things worked. This is the language they talked when they were spoke about when they were boys, about rockets and projos and grenades, and I'm just like, oh dude, I'm fucked. Like, so I'd like stay at study hall, but you know how like one person stays and everybody else has to stay. So I feel like I like annoyed everybody. Like, come on, you got it already. I'm like, I need to do this rocket fucking wrench thing 20 times to year one. I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
I'd like go home and like drawing stuff. I'm like, idiot. So, and then like measuring shit on a ruler. Like, this is the 8 to the 8th to the 16th inch. What are we doing, guys? Like, so that was really hard for me. And it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of bandwidth to shift and learn how to do it. And I had doubts, man. I had doubts. And I actually failed the 50 cal test and double tapped and questioned, like, am I supposed to be here? Because I'm really not good at this. But there were enough good people around to say, dude, you'll always regret it. You've made it this far. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Quit, dry your eyes. Just go do it, And I even had my retest. I wish I remembered his name because he saved me. He's like, yo, dude, you suck right now. You're in your own head. And I was in my own head too, because I felt like with the physical stuff, I felt pretty confident. And it was like fun for me. Dive school was fun for me. This was, and I also felt I created my own pressures by saying, oh, I'm the chick. They're all watching. If I mess up, it's this thing, I'm not supposed to be here. We can't say certain acronyms because I'm here. And now I can't do the job. So I like created my own weird pressures and like imposter phenomenon and all that, dealing with that. But he kind of like said, just, you belong here. I believe you belong here. I see it. And that really helped me because I'm like, okay, someone actually thinks I should be here. I need to get my head straight and just continue on. And so it probably took, and it wasn't just for EOD schools, like took a lot to rewire my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, years.
Like even after getting to the mobile unit and like really putting it all together. For sure. Because it was like guys were just naturally really good. And I don't think they knew that they had that talent. Gotcha.
I remember we had a guy, Solomon was in our class. Do you remember? And he was like, didn't he come from North Carolina? He was like cutting trees. Like he knew everything with lines and roads and mechanical advantage. I'm like, bro, you're brilliant. He's like, I'm not brilliant. He has like a whole
just a huge dip in.
and just whatever. I'm like, no, dude, you are so brilliant. Like I would wish I had your brain right now. Like I was so envious, you know. But then it was really cool to watch everyone, the way they solve problems. I learned from them all, just watching them, how they think, why they think the way they do. It took years of this being surrounded by good EOD techs, to and then who are willing to mentor as well,
right,
to make it work.
That's an important part. Did you find that you've always been able to kind of find mentors throughout your career at different points?
Yeah, so find them was. What would happen is I would just pick something. Let's say they're like, you're in charge of diving, which usually I had to be in charge of diving. But like, I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just figure out how to use this air compressor and put like a cheat sheet there and stay late. And there's always somebody that's around that probably doesn't want to go home. I don't know what's going on there, but it's usually, one of the studs, right? And they're walking around, who's still in the dead space. And I just remember that helped. So they're like, okay, you're still here. You're still working. We don't know why you don't get this yet, but whatever. We'll go. And then when one comes over, they all come over and like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And you're like, this is the worst way to mentor. Because now I'm like, get away. Don't look at me. And they're just waiting for you to fuck it up. And they're like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I'm like, why are we mentoring this way? But it was good for me. Because it like helped me get over my fear of performance under like when people are watching, you know what I mean? Yep. So I'm like, okay, in a way, maybe this is how you should mentor, even though it's not my style. Right. But it worked, you know. And then there'd always be somebody there then that would link up, and I'd learn from. And even if we weren't doing a handshake deal, like I'm your mentor, yes, right. It just happened, you know, organically. Mm-hmm. And then I'm always so grateful for those people that gave me that space. You know? So. Created that space, and then you know you pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some other people as well, you know.
Yeah, I think in my career and just life in general, not just the EOD side, but I don't think I've ever actually gone up to somebody and been like, will you be my mentor? Exactly. You know? Exactly. I feel like honestly in our community, if you do that, they'll be like, get out of here, nerd.
Yeah, totally. Like, totally.
But yeah, there's looking for that help and then going out and reaching out to somebody that knows what you don't when you need to learn that.
Yes.
And then eventually, you know, it happens. You go up to somebody and you're like, not going to go up to this person again, you know?
Yeah.
Go up to somebody else and you're like, okay, I'm going to go back to that. They will actually take some time. Even if doesn't mean that even the person that you go to doesn't make fun of you a little bit.
Totally.
But they're making fun of you not just to be mean.
Yes.
They're actually helping you at the end of the day. 100%.
And it's like kind of brilliant the way EOD does it with having each other be board members for the senior board and for the master board, because I feel like that's a way. It's hard to learn to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But you get forced into this, into training units, into being a teacher, into being a mentor. But no one has a playbook on how to do it. Right. And there's ways, you know, do I see how kind of learner my clients are, all this stuff, right? But we just kind of figure it out. And then it's really cool to have these boards where we get tested on that. And we're supposed to help mentor someone for their senior board or master board. And it's cool to see how everyone is different in that.
Yeah.
And it kind of trained us on it early on, which I don't know if other communities do that.
Yeah, I don't think so, because I know a lot of the boards that are out there, it's just picked, you know, right. Hey, you 3 people come sit here on Tuesday, and then you don't even know who your board members are. You just showing up. Yeah,
exactly.
And I agree, because it is good. I think a lot of us find like satisfaction in teaching somebody and watching them succeed with that.
100%.
And you'll see it a lot. If somebody doesn't pass a board, it's almost like it's the board member's fault.
100%.
And it's not, but
you feel it.
Yeah. You're like, man, what could I have taught them? What did I not spend enough time? Did I not this, that, or the other? Yeah.
Exactly.
There's an investment in there.
Yeah. Even with like the soup boards we do. I mean, we get so many times, so many chances to teach back or to learn from others. It's really cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I do the EWS coordinator. I'm about to give that up, which part of me will be sad about, but the part of me that's exhausted will not.
Yeah. More time for this.
Exactly.
You're like third job. No big deal.
It's kind of nice too, because what I do is I tell people, hey, make sure they know it is not your responsibility to find your board members. But if you do, if you have already talked to people, let me know. And then I'll just validate that, it's not like 5 guys from your team, Yeah. But it's kind of cool because it is in a way, and I literally had not thought about this until we're having this conversation right now, how that is kind of in a way somebody picking their own mentors.
Totally.
Because they're looking like because you're not going to pick somebody that you don't like, that doesn't teach you anything, and that is like a mean, right? You're going to pick the person that you're comfortable talking, sitting down with, because you're going to be doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that is also knowledgeable in the thing, right?
Right.
You don't want the moron,
No.
because then you're not going to learn.
No.
But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
Learn something.
It's all by design. So whoever made that plan, did they have that in mind?
Right.
Or did it just happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if we're
Maybe
direct,
we'll never know.
we'll never know. But if you're direct with it now that we know, it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a little bit more purpose on either side of it.
Yeah. Getting to the mobile unit.
Yeah.
Where'd you go first?
So Mobile Unit 3.
And did you do that because of the waves?
Well, I definitely wanted to be on the West Coast.
Yeah.
For sure. Had to be. I mean,
Yeah, I know some guys that surf in Virginia Beach, and it doesn't look like surfing.
no. You have to, yeah.
Getting to the Mobile Unit 3, how did you go into that? Was it what you expected the mobile unit to be?
So, no, it was very, well, I was very intimidated by Mobile Unit 3.
Really?
Yeah, it was just show up and there's a lot of heavy hitters there,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, whoa, okay. And it was no nonsense, man. It was serious. Everyone was getting some and busy. So no, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But it was good. But it was definitely a different energy shift. Like training, you go from training environment and then you show up and you're like, this is real. Especially when you're like real friends, real teammates, real people are their names are getting put on the wall. Like this is serious.
Right.
And so feeling that energy shift was not what I expected. It was like a slap in the face. If that makes sense. But not a bad way, just like this is a serious job,
That's interesting. That's been brought up a couple times because you go through school and it's fun,
It's
right?
very fun.
And yes, you hear things, but you don't know anybody in the community yet.
Right.
Everybody is trying to get into the community.
Correct.
And then the only people that were in the community are yelling at you because they're the instructors.
Yeah, exactly.
And we go out, we have fun. It's just lighthearted.
It's our safe space with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you get to the mobile unit and they're like, all right, you're terrible at everything.
Yeah.
You're not even a person yet.
F and G.
Here.
Yeah.
Come actually learn what we're going to do. Also, you better take this freaking serious because
Correct.
there's a lot that depends on it.
Right. And then that was like, it's just a completely different culture.
Yeah.
But it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome because you have these personalities, these people you look up to aspire to be, the things you've heard about them doing. You're like, whoa. And then to be able to integrate with them, learn from them, mingle with them, meeting of the minds at times, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I didn't realize how busy we are as EOD.
Yeah.
It's like, you're doing something. It was just that's the really cool part of the job. You could always be doing something.
Yeah.
It's never just like a hangout. It's like, well, let's learn about this. Or someone would say something let's look this up, or let's check this out, or let's play with this, or let's take this out back and dive it, or let's jump it, or let's do this, let's shoot it, let's blow it up, let's make it, let's create it, let's destroy it. And I'm like, whoa, and so many activities. Serious, but also cool, you know? And that part was awesome. Like, and how everybody at that time, everybody was really wanting everyone to be good operators. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was invested. If you wanted to stay later, if you wanted to do a drill one more time, there was no rolling of the eyes. It was like, let's get it done. Yeah. And I felt, and it was really fun to be on a platoon, even though, like, I felt like our platoon was like a misfit platoon. It was still fun. It was like our home, our family, you know? And that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Getting into, you talk a little bit about going through school and, you know, some slight differences being a female going through school, getting to the mobile unit and then integrating as a female, full on EOD Tech, graduated school, did all the other things. And how was that? Was there differences that were noticeable? Or?
Totally. So like, I mean, it's like the elephant in the room. It was like, we don't want a girl here, you know? We've not had very many girls in movies. You guys cause drama and problem. I hear all these stories. Yeah. Like, damn, dude, this is not a good look. Like, if I fuck up once, done. I not only ruin it for me, I ruin it for all the females to come. Like, it's just like a lot of pressure, right? Yeah. And so that was heavy, you know? Yeah. And at the time, it took a long time to figure this out, right? So at the moment, in my 20s, still developing cognitively and emotionally and socially and all this shit, right? Yeah. Like, I'm like, what do I think of this stuff, right? Because there's two ways to go. There's one way to be like, I don't fit in, everybody hates me, I'm gonna go cry in the corner. Yeah. Or maybe I go cry in the locker room, dry my eyes, you know, come back out and be like, okay, like, I just want to, maybe my mission is to win hearts and minds and figure out how we can work together. Because, you know, we are not equal or different. We're equal as humans, but we're different, right? Yep. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And at first, I tried to be like the men. Yeah, that's easy. So I'm like, no gender here. Let me just shoot. And I started chewing tobacco. I was like, and I got addicted to it. So it wasn't like I was like, let me twist my arm. At first, I was twisting my arm. I'm like, I really hate this. I can't let them know I'm gonna puke. Yeah. But if I just like swallow this shit and like, you know, tough it out. It was so nasty, dude. I was nasty. I like doing like Mark 16, you know, on someone's rig, and I have stuff in my mouth. I'm like, this is not hygienic. Like, but I'm fitting in. God damn it, I'm fitting in. So I tried that piece out, and I realized I was battling with myself. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, there's another way to do this. And it took a long time, like maybe 5 years into it, to be like, I can still be a woman and work alongside and with and integrate with men. And we have differences, and let's just like elevate our differences and our intrinsic strengths and figure out how we can be a cohesive, like copacetic unit. Yeah. And make this like a fun time. Make it to where we're looking at things through different lenses because of our different person. And it's same with same genders, you know? Right. And it's just like kind of figuring that out along the way and being comfortable with being different. Yeah. On my end, I needed to be comfortable first before it felt like it was a successful integration.
That makes sense. That makes sense? Yeah, absolutely.
Because when I was forcing it, someone was off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're not being you.
Right.
And yeah.
But then it was like, it's interesting to reflect on it because I find myself really loving the company of and working with men. I love it. And it's because I've done it for a while. Yeah. And I'm like, and I love working with women too, but there's something different about our different genders. I think to me is like that perfect puzzle piece. Yeah. That fits together to make something beautiful. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, but it was definitely hard. Yeah. There's definitely some tricky things to navigate. Yeah. But then it was so rewarding. The best was like, okay, I'll talk about it because I asked him already if I could talk about it. So like, not my first chief, but my second chief on the CSG was Dom Juarez. And he was such a mentor to me, still is. And I still keep in contact with him now. But I remember, and he thinks, we might argue, you might have to have him on it eventually because we argue about the story. But I just remember I can't remember if he was like, just made chief, just picked it on there, like, here's your team. It's a challenge. It's a misfit team. You have a chick. And I'm like, oh. So then, like, I'm already in the same platoon, but we cycled through chiefs.
Uh-huh.
So now he's our new chief. And we all take turns going up to see him because it was like the head shed. I don't know if it's still organized this way. Have you been to Mobile Unit 3 in a while, where the head shed's up top and then everybody's
I haven't been there
in the base space? Yeah. They're all up top, so we'd like throw. I just remember throwing like slap on dicks on the walls and just whatever, like just, you know, whatever you could do.
Yeah.
Head shed, fuck you. You know what I mean? But, you know, sucks to be you. We're down here having fun.
Right.
You guys have computers. We have like one. Haha. You know, like embellishing the time of being junior was amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyways, I had to go up there to introduce myself to the new chief. I'm like, oh, I hate going up there. Walked up there and he's just like, I'm old school. And I know as soon as someone says that, it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And he pretty much was just laying it out like, hey, I don't make exceptions. I don't, you know, just do the job. I don't want drama, blah, 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 blah. But I'm hearing, and it's funny to go back, like in the moment I'm hearing, he hates me, no one wants me, blah, 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 blah. But then eventually I'm realizing he taught me some huge lessons. Mm-hmm. And like our first deployment, I thought he was targeting me, but he wasn't. He was mentoring me, and he actually helped set me up for the rest of my career to be successful. I don't even know if he knows that truly, but like it was really cool to have those things that my own perspectives had my mind spinning. Yeah. But I had to reframe it. And if I didn't reframe it, yeah, I could spin out of control. But, right. But reframing it, it just made it so that when he was like, you earned it, it made it feel that much better. Because I'm like, okay, you go from not wanting me here right. to like giving me a fair shot, which I appreciate, mm-hmm. and then me having to show up to you saying, I actually like you as my team. In fact, I want you as the LPO, or I want you as a team leader. That was like, it felt so great. It was like, oh my God. Yeah. It felt even better. It's like, it made me love it that much more. You know what I mean? Not disproving people, because that sounds like we're enemies, but showing them that just give us a chance. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually, so I've been on teams with almost all my teams, actually, except for one. I've had a female on it.
Yeah.
Or actually, I guess my second team, sister platoon, had a female on it. And you know, then when I made chief, and now I'm chief of a team.
Yeah.
I think that kind of helped me a little bit as far as you know, not going at it as a like it's going to be a problem because, you know, because that's out there, right? Yeah, obviously. Yeah. But one of the things that the mentality that I've always had is all I expect is if you have a strength, you find somebody on the team that has a weakness, mm-hmm. that has that as a weakness, and you help them. Exactly. And if you have a weakness, don't pretend that it's not a weakness.
Exactly.
Just find somebody that has that as a strength, right? It's a team for a reason. We have multiple people. We solve the problems together. There's very few times where it's one person by themselves solving a problem, correct. Right? And I think looking at it like that has helped, right?
For sure.
But it's also understanding that just because I didn't have a certain view, I'm not going to pretend that view is not out there.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it, and it's fine. And it's good. It's learning. It's growing, you know?
Absolutely.
But no, that's good you do that. Because it's like, it's almost like you want to surround yourself with different people.
Yeah.
Or else it's just going to be the same way of solving something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like you need to have differences.
Yep. At Mobile Unit 5, when I was studying for my senior board, I actually found it was easiest. There's on my sister platoon, you know, girl on that team that's smart as hell, right? Mm-hmm. And spent a ton of time studying. And like, that's who I spent the majority of my time studying with. And it worked out perfectly. Like the things that kind of like you said, right. You had to learn some of the mechanical things or whatever, you know, but like in studying terms, there were things that I was good at that I knew, and then there was a lot more things that she knew, and but like it was a good pairing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important in, you know, whether it's male, female, whatever, you know, is finding the person that you can, for whatever, you know, thing that you're trying to learn, whatever job you're trying to do, that you can pair up with, right?
Totally.
And where you bring something and they bring
Yes.
something, and together it's better.
For sure.
Right?
It's like complementing as opposed to competing efforts.
Exactly.
Has to be.
Exactly.
You know?
Absolutely. Getting on your first deployment.
Oh, yeah.
That was at the floaty thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
How
I
was
had
that?
2 floaty things.
Oh, 2 floaty things.
Stinking Lincoln and the Carl Vinson.
Stinking like.
I can't remember which one was first.
Yeah.
I got in trouble on both of them, though.
Do tell.
So the first one was a change of port. And so I did not want to go to Virginia, man. I was just like, California, West Coast. And this change of port was like leaving. It was a Virginia. It might have been the Vincent. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
One was in Norfolk. And then we went all the way around to be ported in California. So they had us on that ride. Cool things were, and then we had like the flyaway dive lockers. We had all the capabilities to respond just in case it happened, you know. But it was kind of depressing, I'll be honest, because you know how you don't sign up to be on a ship.
Yep.
and then you're like, huh. And then you're like, well, and I'm also a girl, so this is probably my destiny for the rest of the time. Because this is before women were allowed in NSW, right?
Yeah.
Not until 2016. So I didn't really realize that until later. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Brother.
Yeah. What'd I do?
Oh, and then it was crazy because I know, like, you're not supposed to want to work with dolphins. But I'm like, I kind of do. I'd rather work with dolphins than be on this floaty gray thing.
Yeah.
But they're like, do not say you like that. Do not. So I'm like, well, I want to work with dolphins. Can't say that. They're flipping and shit. Looks
Right.
oh, I want to go do that. But I can't. Okay. Floaty gray thing is what it's at, right? So you're like, so I rebelled pretty hard.
I could see that.
Yeah. Because I'm like, what is this shit, dude? Yeah. Well, so I had a bad attitude going into it. And what had happened? I just remember we're steaming away and it's cold, Virginia. It was like January, I think.
Okay.
So like 2010. And the next morning, waking up and it was like humid. And I'm like, where are we? And walking out, flight deck? Is that where? No. What's the
hangar bay?
Hangar bay. And you can see out the side, right? Still?
Yep. Out of the elevators.
Yeah. So, and then seeing this beautiful tropical water.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this is kind of cool. And finding out we got our chief, Dom, called us in and he's like, hey, Haiti just had a devastating earthquake. This is the 2010 earthquake that disrupted their whole country. And they're like, we're the first ones to respond because the carriers can go whatever speeds they can go at.
Fast.
You know. Fast AF. So we bebopped right down there. And they're like, we're going to try to figure out if we can respond because we have the Mercy as well and like medical helo capability. And then Dom's like, hey, and this was the one time I'm like, I'm so glad I'm comms. Because you know how at the beginning you get to pick whatever you want to be a PO of, a PO of. And I was like, intel and comms.
Yeah.
Which the guys were like, haha, you're intel and comms. And they're like, weapons, demo. Working out. I'm like, intel and comms? Seriously? Well, guess what, motherfuckers? Guess who's going to Haiti? Yeah. So Dom's like, all right, get the raid. It was like, first objective was to get ground truth on what's going on in Port-au-Prince. And then, so we flew the helo over, and then it was like establish comms link with the boat and see how we can support them. So I'm like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like E5 at the time. So I'm like, oh, I feel pretty cool.
Right.
And I get to leave the boat in my camis, which is feeling pretty cool, you know? Or maybe a flight suit. Either way, And we had a kit. We got to wear a kit.
Nice.
Had our guns, had a primary, had a secondary. It was like...
Just in case.
Little briefing on ROE. I'm like, oh, this is real, And we get in there, and we had one of the ships, I don't know, it wasn't the SWO, but somebody on the team as well. And we get there, and Army's already established the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which was cool, because I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to use my green Harris radio.
Right.
Fucking, this is silly. Dude, like, look at their antenna. Yeah. Look at mine, look at theirs, Like, I like theirs. So... and initially, like, immediately, and this is where the CTI, I think, kind of helped, because we were joint command, so it was like all the encodes was set up there at the airport, and it was Marine, Air Force CCTs, the Army, National Guard, everyone was there. And so it was cool because you could see N1, N2, N3, you could just see it all, like, perfect. I'm going to comms. Can we use your link to get comms with our ship? Yeah, cool. Comms, good. Now I don't have to figure out how to, like, use this. I don't think I could. I don't know. I would have tried, but I was like, So
be a struggle.
I had to climb up on here, make sure this, like, has this reach, angled this way, azimuth this way. This is much easier. So use their link. And then imagery, they had guys flying, constantly flying. I think we were using, like, the French Daphne helos as well. Like, there are a lot of people there, so we were like, okay, here's how we get our imagery, here's how we're getting this. And so we had it all established, and so then it was just like, cool, let's see what work we can do with EOD, like, and that was really fun to kind of be part of that. And I just remember feeling super cool too, because I'd fly back and I'd be kind of like dirty, grungy, big day at work. Getting head of the line privileges, because we were E5s, nice. Right? Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to march right up on here. And looking at the guys being like, haha, guys, I get to go. Which I got slapped down pretty hard. That's how I got in trouble. So I'm feeling pretty cool, and they're like, yeah, okay, this chick, right? And so I had to sleep with the weapons, the AO, birthing. And so I just remember waking up to a banging on the door. Yeah. And it was one of the guys on my team, and he had his kit on, he had everything on. He's like, where the fuck, dude? We were late. They're taking off. Heels are taking off now. And you're not on the manifest because of you. Because I was asleep. I slept in. Oh. And I'm like, shit. And I, like, run up there, and I look over at Dom, and they're not left yet. They hadn't left yet. I got my kit on really quick. I got everything done quickly. Yeah. The guys actually were probably good. They had my shit ready for me. I was just like, who is this? Like, they have I'm like, A5 now, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh no. Dom's like, don't even look at me. I tried to say one word. He's like, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Great. So we go over there and do what we were doing. We're, like, dropping off water. We're dropping off food. We're doing meats for delivering suitcases of money to certain named individuals and their government. Like, all this cool shit, right? And then, at the end of the day, you do feel like a hero a little bit, even though it's humanitarian, but it's a good mission in a way, and it's something. And so then I just remember thinking, oh, it's good he forgot, I'm like, okay, just make sure I do really well at networking. I'll introduce everybody. I'll just be a stud out there. And then he'll forget that I was late, right? Right. So he's like, come to my office. I'm like, oh, no.
He didn't forget.
So we sit down, and he's like, see that clock? And it was this, like, old school wall clock that you have in elementary school. Right? Yeah. Pretty big. Wasn't working, because who even has these things anymore? And he's like, get that clock off the wall. I go pick it up. He's like, go get batteries. Not from our supply. Go get batteries for this clock. And I'm like, oh, shit. Meaning I have to go network with someone on the ship? No, I kept extra batteries.
You're smart.
So, put batteries on. He's like, the time is, set time, whatever time it was. Set the time, clock to this time. He's not even laughing, not smiling, nothing. I try to say one thing. I'm sorry. Shut up. Right? So I'm like, oh, here we go. And then he's like, go get dive weight. And I can't remember how many pounds we started with. It went up. I'll tell you later. But let's say maybe it started with 40 pounds, 35. Yeah. Go get 35. Let's say 30. Maybe 35. I feel like it was 50, but let's just say 35.
It always feels like more than it is. Yeah.
So I get these dive weights, and he's like, okay. And then he's just like, I don't even have to say it. You're late. Like, what the fuck? We could have missed. You represented our team, our platoon. It was like really bad. So I was like, oh, dude. He wasn't even yelling. I just felt like shit.
Isn't that the worst? When you're not even getting yelled at?
And I'm like, please just yell at me. Please make me do a billion burpees. Please make me do anything.
Right.
You're just like, you're so mad at me. Yeah. I let you down. I let everybody down. I was like, oh man, it's just the worst feeling in the world. Especially when you see the third and fourth order effects. Because to us, it's just like, okay, we were almost late, but we got on, right?
Right.
No, it's like you made us look like we don't have our shit together, like all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm just going to get reported back to the mobile unit.
Right.
I'm done for it, you know? And so then he's like, okay, put this weight, like, figure out how to carry this stuff. And I'm like, the clock? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what? And he's like, at any time anybody asks you what time it is, you're using this clock to tell them what time it is. And I'm like, motherfucker,
That's
dude.
so amazing.
I'm like, I can't wear this. Because I'm like, I can't wear it on my neck. Like, that's too much. But smart-assly, I was like, maybe I do. But I'm like, no. I had to, like, cut a little hole in my cargo pants side for it to fit in, but it was, like, half fitting in. I had a wall clock.
That's so awesome.
In my cargo pants. In my camis. So, and then the weight. So at first I tried to shove it all in my pants, and then it was just too much. So I had to get a little camel back. So then I had this weight in my back, and I had this clock, and it had to be with me at all times. And since he was a chief, he has the chief network on his ship, right? So he's telling everybody, ask the weirdo with the clock what time it is. Just go ask her. Just ask her. And if she does not pull the clock out, read it, and tell you what time it is, report back to me, dude. I go from feeling like I'm so cool, walking off the fucking helo on the flight deck, saving some Haitians, to like pulling a wall clock off. It was the most humbling experience ever, and embarrassing, and then also like we have to wait in line like normal people. Well, no, I had to at this point. He's like, you're waiting in line like you're not entitled anymore, unless you're missing the next, ride out of here, and we'll hook you up. But then I'm like carrying this weight, and like even at the gym, I remember like going on the treadmill and having the wall clock like in the gym with me. Like,
that's so awesome.
No chance of anyone thinking I'm cool anymore. You know what I mean? And that's all it was about, right? Like, I just wanted to be cool for one day. Swap. Like, smack that idea out of your head,
Oh, man.
But it was brilliant, and I hated him for it. I'm like, I hate him. But it taught me such a good lesson. And I even remember, like, leaving my clock and the weight for 1 second at the ISUs because we were loading something. I'm like, oh, it's back at the shop. I went to go grab it, I came back, and I'm, like, legitimately thinking I'm getting weaker. I'm like, dude, something's wrong with me. I feel, like, so weak. And they're like, oh, you forgot your clock. We put more weight in it. And this time it was probably up to 50 pounds. And then I'm like, I hate you guys. You did this on purpose. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, joke's on you, motherfuckers. Look at these traps.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
I won in the end.
But it was funny. Like, that was like, it's funny because even like coming here, I'm like, oh shit, I told him 10 o'clock. I'm 10:05. What am I going to do? And I still have this like clock, dive weights, like always. So like I was late I was late mud pupping. I was late all this other shit. But this is the one time that like, I think it got through to me. Like, setting 20 different alarms, like contingency plans, all of it. But it was like fun. It was like a fun way to mentor, like a punishment that fits the crime. But it wasn't like I mean, I don't know if it's considered hazing, but it was great. Like, can we do this still? Probably not.
I feel like if you were to go on a carrier 6 months from now, you'd probably see an EOD person with a clock.
Has to.
Because I feel like people listening are going to be like,
brilliant.
Oh, I'm doing that.
Brilliant. And it's so good on multiple levels too, because it made me, it just humbled me.
Yeah.
Because it's like, kind of feel like you want to be a hero, you want to be cool, and all this stuff, but that's not the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
It's maybe it's not even something you should be thinking about, to be honest.
Right.
So I felt like he helped me out there early on, to which I didn't even see that he was helping me out. But he was just like, whoa, 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 this is not what this is about.
Yeah.
And I thank him for that.
Yeah, I think the hero portion, the like savior portion, that's all a byproduct of what you do, and if you're in the right place at the right time, right?
100%. Timing is everything.
Exactly. So just like your goal shouldn't be, and most same way. I had the same things, like you're doing a drill and you do well and you're like, man, when I get to do that for real, I'm gonna be a person. Most of us are thinking like that, except for the few that are lying. The rest of us are thinking that.
You have to. I mean, you have to be thinking this. Like, we can fantasize a little bit.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that punishment is so great listening to it, because I remember different things that I did, right? And I'd get in trouble and I'd get my punishment for it. And you do it, especially the ones that are, like go out back and do push-ups until your tongue bleeds or something. I don't know, but you do that.
You bleed.
Yeah. You do that. and then it's over, right? Yeah. And then you can go back to being the cool person. Nobody sees it, right?
Exactly.
And the whole point of it is that, like, it doesn't matter that you don't think it's a big deal. Like, I'm going to do something so that, you're not wearing a thing saying I'm a loser. Yeah. But when somebody asks you the time and you pull out the clock. I am a loser. But yeah, it's like the purpose of that is to humble.
Totally.
So like, and you don't, there's interesting and creative ways to do that. And I 100% do not think that's hazing. Like hazing would be, hey, you just joined on the team. Here's your clock.
Someone listening to this is like, oh, wait a second. Never mind. Erase, like draw a line out, initial. We can't do this?
That's funny. It has to serve a purpose.
But it was brilliant. And I'm like, I have to ask him, like, did you know what you were doing? I think so. I mean, he was good. He did a lot of cool stuff. He also would have us do stuff to prep for masterboard, which I didn't even realize he was doing. And it was one topic, and it was all based on what our carrier was doing at the time. So it was like, okay, we're going to do this op. So somebody draw up a phased approach to this PowerPoint, like learning PowerPoint. He was doing that with us, and at first it's like, oh god. But now I'm like, wow, that really helped us out for masterboard.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Hugely. And thinking that way, of thinking more than just, P1 and P2. Right? So that was really cool to get intro to that early on. And we had time on the carrier to do that. So that was kind of neat to get to nerd out on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of things that when you're the junior person on the team and you're doing all these like things that, they're technically part of the job, like, really, is that my responsibility? I'm like, I'm just the junior guy. I should be able to have fun, do this, that, and the other. But then, you get later on in your career and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm actually thankful that at that point I had to go around. I remember I got tasked with doing, we'd flown out to Cambodia, and took this like rickety boat out to this island, inventory this magazine, and then when we got back, tasked with coming up with a demo plan for it. And given, I had all the ordnance that was in there, and then given the name of the State Department rep that does the EOD stuff in Cambodia. And so like working with him and trying to find a range and organizing, like because of where the range was going to be, we were going to have to bury all the shots. So then figuring out how to get the heavy equipment and how deep to bury it. And then it's weird because it was like fairly close to an ammunition factory. And so like, turns out you don't want that to blow up as well. Things like that. That's where, huge. And I never executed that mission, but coming masterboard time when I had to like move from point A to point B and this and that. Yeah. At the time, learning what NCEA is and then knowing that there's a difference between training and like, So I remember I didn't know, I'm first team, E5, like just having a good time in life. And I go up to this one senior chief and I was like, hey, I'm trying to do this and like, I can't do it because like we're going to have to request more demo. He's like, what are you talking about? And he like works through the process and like explains a bunch of things. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, but yeah, it helps you out later on in your career. It's
cool.
awesome.
It is cool.
Yeah. How did you, so you did the second carrier as well.
Yeah.
Was that same team, but 2 carriers or?
Yeah. Same team, 2 carriers.
Nice.
Yeah.
How'd that second carrier go?
Second one was cool because I was an E6.
Oh.
Oh my God.
You're like the person.
You get your own line.
Yeah.
You get access to peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anytime you want. That was amazing.
Isn't it funny that it's those kind of things that are like the lifesavers? And
totally.
Anybody who's not in the military would hear that and be like, what's wrong with you?
Right. You're like, this is glorified prison. Shut the fuck up.
Let me enjoy this sandwich.
It is a prison.
It is.
But it's probably... Prison might be easier. I don't know. But
it's good you don't know.
Yeah. Yes. No joking.
Oh gosh.
But no, it was cool to be an E6 going, you know, on the carrier this time and understanding how to network a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that was important, and little things you could do. And we were talking about this before I got here. Like, I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
You know, at heart.
Yeah.
It's really tricky to talk to people. And like, I'll do it, but it's like, but learning how to do that, and then not. It was kind of fun to see it as an E5, and then the second time as an E6. Like, okay, like let's make this well-oiled machine. Like, let's actually put it to work.
Yeah.
And then it was fun because then you could do some cool stuff, like exchange. You know, do trades with like, you guys want to do some fast roping in the hangar bay, and you know, rappelling and PTs, and it was just felt a little bit better that second time around. We knew what to expect.
Yeah.
You know what to bring this time.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys get any cool things to do during that one?
The coolest thing for the second one, I think, was diving. We got to dive the pier in Oman, which is cool to prep for another vessel coming in. And then training with the Peruvian Special Forces was really cool. Oh man, did you get to go down there at all and train with them?
No, not Peru, no.
It was interesting because they had similar equipment. It's almost, I think Australia does this too. Everything is like their EOD they're all special forces, but EOD is one expert. Yep. They spend some time in EOD, then they spend some time as a diver, then some time as a assaulter, then some time as a, you know, air asset.
Yeah.
So when we went down there, they had their, you know, the bomb suit. I can't remember what model number it was. It was really outdated.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of cool. And then they had jungle warfare. So it was really fun to see their training drills for the jungle warfare. It was actually pretty badass. And then they have an island, kind of like the way our Navy SEALs do it with, like, you know, San Clemente Island. Just don't ask any questions over there. They have their own island. They took us to their island and showed us how they do their training. And they had their pool was gnarly, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then their rigs to jump were pretty nuts too. You're like, whoa. But it was cool to train with them and a cultural like exchange for a little bit. That was pretty neat.
That's awesome.
And it was kind of neat to see. They were, I remember them feeling a lot older, like being older, but they were just like little jungle warfare ninjas. These guys, yeah, it was cool. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And it was interesting too because they're like they also didn't understand why there was a female on the they didn't know. They're like, oh. So I remember at the time I didn't know, but we had to stay on their base, and then we stayed out in town. We stayed on their base for like a week, and then we stayed out in town for a week. But on base, they're like didn't know where to put me, so they put me in like their head generals.
Oh, really?
Which is cool. I didn't know this at the time. But yeah, that was kind of a perk of being a woman.
Yeah.
You know, you know, like.
I'm roughing it, guys. Sorry, you can't come and look at my room.
You won't want to see this. It's like marble, grab floor, and they're like bunking it up. Like I'm like, oh, I won't say anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, someone's bringing me coffees. I'm like, am I supposed to stay? Can I just stay with the Peruvians?
Right.
Their ceviche is on point.
This is where I live now.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, they even took us out surfing.
Really?
Yeah, they're like,
That's
"Let's
awesome.
go." Well, they're like, we'll watch your stuff while you go. But it was cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the highlight of that one.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, I know you've talked about and you wrote it down too, the mindset, and I think it's kind of a good spot to do it, right? So you wrote down specifically like mindset for like selection, like getting into EOD and whatnot, operating, changing roles inside of EOD, and then retiring. Like, how has I guess a couple questions. One would be, did you consciously think of like your changing mindset, or is that like a thing that you realized after, like how you changed your mindset in these different roles?
Yeah, I think very much. That's a great question. I think very much it was reflection after the fact.
Okay.
And I think, my opinion on mindsets, certain experiences shift your mindset, and then shift your personhood. Like, how do I perceive myself? How do I perceive the world? And how do I perceive the world to think of me, right? And just the personhood side of the house, but also what is going on in the world at large, right? But in the moment, personally, I wasn't aware of mindset. I didn't even know. I mean, I think that's kind of like a buzzword over the last maybe 10 years. I don't know when it first started.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, I wasn't even knowing. That wasn't part of my vocabulary at the beginning, but it was reflection on like what shifted, what changed. And you're growing as well, right? So it's always fluid.
Yeah.
And it just kind of levels up, I think. And if you're open to new perspectives, new changes, new roles, you get to continue to level up. And I think that's been fun to do and to explore and to play with.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you kind of reflect on, I like reflecting. I think it's fun
I do too.
to do, you know, and
I think it's fun. It's also important. Like,
yes.
I think you can find yourself in a better place by reflecting on things, because you can understand yourself and why you did things.
Right. And it's like, okay, going back through an experience, maybe I had the wrong mindset. But then I looked at that. Why did I? What caused that? What was I blocking?
Yeah.
You know? And then how do I level myself up to not do that again and be more, you know, and then that's just the fun part of navigating life, I think, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's, I think most people don't think of like, how do I need to change my mindset until a good portion of life has passed.
Yeah.
And then maybe they do, because they've reflected and been like, oh, wow, I'm such a different person.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a big shift is going from, you know, operating to training is a huge maybe force shift that happens, where I think people can take it one or two ways, right? And I think that shift was interesting to have happen. And then the shift is still happening getting outside of the military.
Yeah.
You're like, and I find myself having to adjust my mindset in this way where I think, man, civilians are weird. I don't want to socialize with them. I don't like it. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to run from it. I'm going to do everything, you know, I'm going to go on surf trips for 20 days to the Maldives just to avoid people. And then I'm like, this is a shitty mindset, right? Like, it's fun, but you know, but then it's like, okay, what do I not like about society or people? But I'm finding this mindset now that I'm trying to adjust with it. I love my touch points with military. It's like home. It feels good. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, it's familiar. It's like, I need this bubble. I need a touch point with this bubble once in a while. But then, not to necessarily shut off walls to civilians, but also see what similarities and parallels that we have. And then you can like learn from them too, and they can learn from you. And then you're like, oh, we can continue to level up. It's just different. Yeah. You know, it's like a different way of doing it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, not too long ago, I did a podcast, and a guy was talking about one of the benefits on the outside is that there's no set ceiling. Whereas like in the military, you know, you make a rank and you're like, okay, unless I get an EP, I am this for 2 years. Yeah. And then maybe I promote, you know. Yeah. And on the outside, like if you work harder than other people and you not manipulate in a bad way, but like you adapt to the situations. You can, like, money's not an issue. The job title, like, you can keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And there's also maybe not as much of a safety net as if you're in.
Completely. I know. That's a shock. You're like, oh, wait a second. That just shows how institutionalized we have.
Yeah.
You know, like when people say, like, oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, that's totally me. I only get paid once a month now, not twice.
Right.
Where's that BAH? I have to go to school to get BAH. What?
Yeah.
Like, it's all these things, you know, and you're like, okay, grow up. You know, but you're like, I don't want to grow up.
Right. Let's see. So I know. Did you want to talk about the process of the interesting stuff you did?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay, we'll just talk about the process.
The process.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. This is 2010.
Which, I'm sorry, before you started this, the one thing I want to say is it was funny because, like, I was out in Guam, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm already detached from a lot of the people I went to school with, you know? Yeah. And it was funny because there was, like, all these, like, stories.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You know, we're just like a little frat that is, you know, like. Yeah.
Totally. And the network is crazy. Because, like, now that I'm back in California, like, I'll hang out with, hang out with EOD. I'll try to, like, meet EOD guys, hang out with people from the past or whatever. And I'm like, it's like, they're like, oh, instantly, like, photos, group chats. I'm like, whoa, you guys are fast. Like, whoa, it's crazy. It's cool though. Yeah,
it is. It's funny though, because I remember, like, every once in a while you're like, hey, what's this person doing?
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, for quite a while, everybody's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And then eventually there's, like, a story here and story there. But yeah, sorry.
No, that's funny. That's funny to hear.
I thought you would enjoy that.
That is cute. Yeah, I do actually. It's fun. So I remember getting this letter. Okay, so OG's is the bar.
Yeah.
You guys, everyone still goes there, right? Or do you know?
I know OG's, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like this, because it's near the training unit. Mm-hmm. And so your team's going through their workup, or whoever's at the training unit, you just go to OG's, and everyone has their mugs with their names on it, and it turns into this mini EOD bar, right? And, we'd go there. It would be fun. We'd just go there. And then I remember Dom is like, get to OG's ASAP, like, okay, here comes another punishment of some sort.
I don't even know what I did.
What did I do this time? Because there's a lot of what did I do? And I find out then, I'm like, oh, I forgot to lock the pubs or something. And it's like, you have an open tab on your, and then everyone's like 50 EOD texts. I'm like, shit, dude, never doing that again. But that's another time I got in trouble. But this time, okay, focus. So he's like, get to OG's ASAP. We get there, and he's like, hands me this package, like this letter with this official letterhead from the CNO, Chief of Naval Operations. He's like, don't spill beer on it. And I'm like, all right. I'm reading it, and I think they're lying. It's just
messing with you.
Come on, man. Like, don't you fuck with me enough? Like. And he's like, no, dude, we're not messing with you. This is real. And it was just this letter that said, you are mandated to go to this screening process for a CNO Priority 1 special program. And I still didn't believe them. And they're like, look it up, because there's like, I don't know the terminology. There's like codes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. In the letters that actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so somebody knew that, and they're like, just look up the code. And it checked out that it was from his office at the time. So I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I can't spill beer on it. So I had to do this, like, fill out this questionnaire. It was pretty random. And the word got around. The guys were like, what is this? I don't know. And so I remember Mike Singer at the time.
Yeah.
You ever work with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember he's like, dude, this is TF Orange, which is like Army special program. And there was this book. What was the book called? I don't remember the name of the book, but he's like, read this. This is what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, dude, this is cool. Like, this could be really cool if this is what it is. And I didn't know, and then everyone's conspiracy, like, what is it, you think?
Yeah.
So we're all, like, coming up with hypotheses of what this could be. I go to this screening, and it was weird. It was like a whole week. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it started with a PRT, like a normal PRT, and then it was, we could ask questions and they could say yes or no. It was at this hotel lobby, and everyone was wearing civilian clothes. Business attire was what we were wearing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is this the CIA? Is this the agency? Is this something? Or is this whatever? And this at the time, I think they were exploring females on subs. So I'm like, right away, I'm like, I had to raise my hand. I'm like, is this females on subs? I'm out of here. Yeah. So I'm like, no way. Like, come on. Who would do that?
Got you good.
That is, yeah. I was like, if this is this, your lobby and your interviews won't persuade me to do that. And they're like, no, this isn't that. And I remember asking, is this Tia? I asked it. I just remember, is this TF Orange? And I just remember them not just kind of looking at me interesting. And then I'm like, is this Navy Special Warfare? Because they're like, oh, maybe it's NSW.
Yeah.
And they were like, what's NSW? But they had this smile on their face, like this weird, is like, okay, this is something. Like, are you guys in the military? And they couldn't really answer back everything. But needless to say, I went through this interview process and had to take these, psych tests and all these weird things. And I'd get back, and the guys were like, I remember Sean Carson's like, dude, we got to look at the bottom of your Jeep. They probably put tags on it, like TTL devices. They're gonna follow you around. And so then all the guys were out there all like looking, seeing what this is. But it was cool at the time because they were super supportive of me going on and doing something different.
That's awesome.
I felt the whole command was like behind me.
Yeah.
Which was huge. Even to the point of like, how do we get you ready physically? Like, what do you need? Like, swim. Like, no one wants to go sit in ops, but it was the best decision. Oh, and then they're like, you have to get your senior tech before you go. Like, all these things were in place.
Yeah.
To support me going to do something that they didn't really know what it was either.
Yeah.
But they were like, you can probably go do some cool shit if you go follow this. It's in Virginia, but like, just go. Yeah. And it was really cool. To have that support from them, especially when I'm like, do they even like me?
Right.
Are we over the girls being an EOD thing? Yeah. But they were like 100% backing it. Like,
that's awesome.
It was great. And like even Dom, I remember like wanting his, because he was my mentor. He's like my chief, and I'm like, I just need his approval on this. Yeah. And he's like, what he said was, because I remember I really liked diving. That was like the thing. I was like, okay, I'll specialize in diving since everyone else is doing the running and gunning and shit. So, like, I'll just be really good at diving. Yeah. And he was like, we went to Middle East, went to Oman, we tried to dive. And he's like, it was hard culturally for you to be the soup. Because culturally, they were, like, not going. Right. And I'm like, you're right. This has been just a fucking upward hill everywhere. Once I get the guys to, like, then it's like I have to get the Jordanians to like me, the fucking, you know what I mean? They're not going to listen to me tell them how to fucking do time fuse calculations, but you have to, motherfucker. Like. Girls
do not know.
Yeah. Keep smoking. That's right. Keep smoking and handle this. Right. They all smoke, bro. It's like, come on, please. Yeah. So anyways, they were like, no, this is what you do. You have to go. This is your outlet. This is the way to do it. And so that was really cool. He's like, you can do stuff that you probably can't do here. Yeah. You have to go. And so I felt like I shortchanged my quote-unquote EOD career, because it was really short at Mobile Unit 3. Mm-hmm. But it felt like it was the perfect time to go and explore some different unconventional opportunities. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Then, fast forward. Yeah. Going to get out. Yeah. Like retiring process, because you've only been out for
like a year.
Yeah. You're new at this.
I'm very new at this. Discovery. Yeah.
So obviously you came back from the Virginia side of life to the nice weather all the time. Yes. Except for that one little tiny rainstorm that you guys had a little bit ago. Yeah.
Right. And everyone's like, what? We're in Seattle now? Like, we're paying California taxes and living in Seattle, dude. Like, and then everyone acted like they were from, like, Seattle. Everyone was depressed, mean. traffic got worse. You're like,
which is hard to do here.
it got worse, bro.
Did you know that you wanted to come back to California when you retired?
Yeah, I wanted to. Yes, I wanted to leave Virginia.
Yeah,
and it's yeah, and also I needed. It's hard because my identity personally got wrapped up in that job.
Okay.
And what I was doing, and that's all I was. I was that.
Yeah.
And I felt like the whole world revolved around that area, that place, this mission, this, and I didn't realize that no one even knows what the fuck this is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's funny.
Kind of like depressing because you're like, oh, wow, no one even knows the difference between this. They don't even know the difference between Navy and Army, man. Like, who are we fooling ourselves? Like, but you don't realize it at the time. You have to be in it. You have to live, breathe, eat, sleep it to be successful. And so I knew I needed to leave that bubble, that state, entirely, because it's very. I believe in energies. Everyone has energies, and they exist, and it is a very different energetic feeling there, and I needed to separate myself in order to create my own life. And it was just I needed to cut that cord first, that umbilical cord first, And it's funny because you identify with everything. I did, at least, and so that's been a process of like was a chapter, but not my identity. But I can use the things there to create who I am as a person and continue growing. But it's tricky because you miss it. You miss the people. Oh my God, the people.
Yeah.
The work, the sense of purpose. And so I knew the only way to be not insane would to be living in California where I could surf, because surfing has always been my outlet. Yeah. And so then that's kind of why I said I need to come out to California. And the surfing has been really the thing that's kept me sane. Yeah.
You just go pretty much every morning?
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime I can get in the water, I'll do it.
That's awesome.
Or take trips up the coast or whatever,
Yeah. I feel like finding that, well, two things that you said that I think are really important is one, it's really hard, but just because these type of jobs become your life, that doesn't mean they define you. Yeah, they define you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's hard to, because a lot of time, I am an EOD Tech, right? Like, and then
like, who are you? First thing you say is like, I've been on 6 deployments. I'm an EOD Tech, or whatever,
Right.
Like,
and it's interesting because the whole reason why I do the introduction is not for the person. Yeah. It's like, what? So, and it's really weird. And I like, cause I was just talking with somebody else about it. And, I did this mental health thing where I talked the other day, and, we tend to want to be like, my normal introduction that I want to do is be like, hey, I'm Jacquelyn. And then I get right into it. Right. Like, I don't want to talk about all these things and everything. Right. But like you kind of, you qualify yourself, and it's not for you. You're right. It's for those out there. Right. But it's weird because even though we don't want to, like, we tend to not talk about all this stuff that much, it's still like inside of us. Right. It's hard to separate who is Jacquelyn Clark, who is Jacque, from like what you've been doing for 20 years, Right. And it's different, but separating is important. And sometimes that physical separation from a job that you've been doing, a homestead location, is needed, because it's like, from what I've been told, right, and from what I've read, when this is going to sound really weird, the military is not a drug, but if you go through a rehab plan, right, because you're addicted to something, sometimes what's needed is to not go back to where you lived before, because all the people all the things, and it kind of dives you back into that thing that you're trying to separate from and figure out, who is Jacque? 100%. Who is,
100%. And it's like, I even found myself having these touch points with these women who want to do diving EOD. And it got to the point where it was actually depleting instead of renewing. And I had to cut that off as much as I want to eventually feel, I guess, charged enough to be able to do that. This wasn't the time right away.
Right.
Right. So I was like, oh, I want to give back. I want to give back. I want to help people. But then I'm like, well, that's like even more depleting.
Yeah.
Because we have to figure out who we are again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's tricky.
It's important to make sure that you as an individual is set. You know, we talk about it in the military all the time too, where, you know, for you to be helpful to the team, you have to be
100%.
like ready, right?
100%.
And yeah, you know, I think about on the podcast, there's a bunch of people that, you know, are like, you know, I'm not opposed to doing it, but just not right now. You know,
Correct.
A lot of people get out and then they're like, okay, I'm going to establish myself as who I am, and then at some point be able to go out and talk about this stuff again. But yeah, if you're trying to establish yourself in a new endeavor, and sometimes that new endeavor is just this chapter of life, you know, sometimes, you do need to just pull back from the other stuff. It doesn't mean that you're like, didn't like it, that you don't want to acknowledge it anymore. But it's just like when you come into EOD, right? Like
exactly.
All you know is the training, because if you spend too much time doing other things, you're just going to fail out, you know?
Totally.
But since you've been back here, what have you been up to besides just surfing?
Okay. So I wanted to I knew I didn't want to work for a company or anybody. I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I just cannot. No way. So I'm like, okay, I want to play around, dabble with being an entrepreneur. And so the first business I started, and it was a lesson learned.
Okay.
Big one. It was called Vangogo.
Yeah.
That's the hat I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I like it.
Just to represent.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, when I left Virginia and came out here, I sold my condo, I bought a camper van, and I lived in it for about a year.
Okay.
That also was very helpful for me to just transition. Like it was like a new thing, and it helped me just reflect on what my career just had been and what it's about to be in this transition thing. And it was great because I was in nature. And I feel like there's something about whether it's in the mountains or the different landscapes or on the road or, you know, the stars or camping and sunrises. It's just like, and you're on your own time and you're seeing things and you're observant and you can like open your eyes and your soul and your mind and spirit to all these things out there. And you're like, whoa, okay, speak to me.
Yeah.
Like, come on, you know? And so I did that for a year and it inspired me to create this business, Vangogo, because I'm like, this needs to be packaged and shared with everybody. Yeah. Because this is like amazing. And so I played around with that, but I had to fail at it to realize like, okay, starting a new business again, called Athena Defense Group. And I'll get into that in a second. But Vangogo was enough for me, even though it's going to eventually be something. It's just morphing.
Gotcha.
I needed to have something that was completely mine, that I had a full autonomy over. Yeah. And then I needed to like destroy it, I guess, or learn from a failure to be like, okay, I got that out of my system. Yeah. I needed that autonomy. Because the military is just like, you have little bits of freedom, but not really. Right. And so I was just craving full freedom. A little bit too much. I went into it too hard. And I did like a rewind.
Just did a full send.
Full send, man. Full send. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So then I'm like, okay, I still want to try. So now I have another company called Athena Defense Group. And that one is more Vangogo was going to be a platform of van rentals, like Airbnb, but for vans, which is something I know nothing about, except for living in a van and playing around with it and doing the fun stuff. But the managing of it, the tech side of it, the building the websites, all that, you know, I'm like, I needed a team. Yeah. I didn't want to surround myself. So then I'm like, well, let me do something that's in my brain. That's my own intellectual property. It's my own formula. And that's Athena Defense Group. And what that is I felt as a woman, I'm like, wow, this has been really fun to shoot guns, to jump out of planes, to dive, to get some confidence, to learn from and integrate with men. And I'm like, I want to share that with other women because I'm like, are you guys like missing out on what could be super fun?
Yeah.
Is it because you're just afraid to try it? It's fun. Like there's some fun, like shooting a gun. Wherever you are politically, there's something about learning how it works, realizing the mechanics of it, and that little bit of blast feels good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun.
I'm with you.
That's why we're doing what we did. Like,
Yeah.
blowing shit up is really fun. And I know, like, okay, some blast is a little, like, too much, but there's a little bit, it's like, you get a charge a little bit, you know? And even so that's what this new company is about, is sharing an experience, very elementary to what we've done, with other women to say, like, hey, this is something you can do. And that's what the company is now.
Nice.
So, like, I'll do gigs, I'll travel. I did, like, a tactical goddess retreat with some women.
That's cool.
We did, like, 3 days by the fire. We did wine, charcuterie, learned about weapons, shot a little bit, did some combatives, and mostly it's mindset, though.
Yeah.
Because mindset's at the root of all of it. Mm. And I know that word's such a buzzword. I kind of hate using it, but it's kind of, I don't know another word to replace it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't either. I think it is, though, because, like, it is a buzzword, and I think people have adapted it to mean, like, whatever they want it to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, you have to consciously set yourself up to be able to do the thing you're scared of, which could be just shooting a gun.
Exactly.
Plenty of people are scared of shooting a gun.
Exactly.
And then, but if you don't get your mind right first, then that's the person you don't want shooting the gun.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it's so funny because, like, I'll go and train people and they're like, okay, they're like, pro gun. I'm like, okay, this is great. You're all in. But, dude, you are scary with the gun. Like, let me just help you out a little bit, you know, so you can back up what you want, right? Or if someone's completely fuck guns, well, what else is there? Okay, let's look at our mindset with the world, right? So how do you travel? How do you what's your digital footprint with Instagram and social media, and like you're telling everybody you're gone and where you're at exactly. It's like, so those kinds of things I feel passionate about sharing with those who want to learn.
Yeah.
It just levels everybody up in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's what this new company's about. Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, actually on Instagram I saw your stuff with the Defense Group, and I thought it was pretty awesome because one, like, you've always been like, and I mean this in a good way, a savage, right? Back in EOD school, I remember probably 2 or 3 days a week for quite a while in underwater. We would leave underwater and go to CrossFit, and like just go crush it there, right? And, just I don't know. It was
fun.
Yeah, it was. It was. So it didn't surprise me that you were getting into, building something like that.
Yeah, cool.
Doing that. One other thing that you wrote down and kind of pointed out, and I think, going through the whole career is how'd you put this? Basically the relationships of all sorts, like, right?
Yeah.
Basically looking through the EOD lens in terms of relationships, personal, professional, family, business.
Yeah.
How are there interlinking things? And then how do you view, like, the differences in those different things?
Definitely. I think learning about relationships happens on a team from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and you can take that to well, first of all, I definitely failed at my romantic relationships with what is it? Everyone's divorced.
Yeah.
I had to do that twice. I mean, just get the wiggles out.
Yeah.
Twice. So, but like our relationship, it would have worked had I wanted it. I didn't want it.
Gotcha.
But I learned how to be a good partner through being a teammate, a good teammate to my fellow team members, and learning how to communicate with peers, subordinates, officers, that whole officer enlisted relationship.
Yeah.
Learning how to navigate that, learning like, wait, do we really hate them? Why do we hate them?
Right.
Like, we're supposed to hate them, but some of them are really cool.
Yeah. Right.
I don't really hate them all. Oh no, I hate them. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like,
I do. It's so funny.
Why do people do this?
There's been so many team room conversations like that.
It's funny. And I don't know what they're saying. Like, do not trust them. Back to what we learned in the academy. You know what I mean? But they're probably like, but they're really cool. We learn a lot from them, but it's just, So I feel like the teams, it's so fun because you're actually practicing relationships with so many different people and you get to play with that and practice it and observe it. And it's like a giant social experiment, right?
Yeah.
And then when you successfully navigate, especially with the hard relationships or learning, leadership challenges or people that you are 180, if you can figure out how to navigate and work together for a common goal, oh my God, dude. Like that is a great formula for success, I think, on the outside with anyone you meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like practice. It's like it's good to pay attention. And it's interesting as you asked earlier, like, mindset, did you adjust right away or did you know it? No, it was after the fact. But it's like if we could go back in time and be more directed and I don't know, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think it is. It's interesting to think about how much better we could have been at something if we know what we know now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then we think maybe me not knowing is what allowed me to get to a point where this challenge led to this success. Yes. Right.
And learning from these, because we always learn from failure. I mean, that's, utopia is I'll learn from your failure.
Yeah.
That's best case scenario. But reality, we're kinesthetic, dude. We need to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And you really learn that way. It's like, it's emotional. Yeah. It's visceral.
Yeah.
And it applies in a different way. And then you're like, well, this is great because now this whole next chapter, all these things that I wish I would have done earlier, I get to now put in this new chapter. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I don't know if this is exactly how the saying is supposed to go, but the only true failure is not learning from it.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Yeah. There's, I can literally think of everything that I've done in life. Yeah. From, school all the way to EOD and outside of EOD. Yeah. The things that I've failed at and had, this is where like that team and family and, the relationship side comes in, right? You may not want to have lots of people and that's fine. Yeah. Surrounding you, but having those close ones so that when you fail, they can help you from falling all the way.
Totally.
And then you learn from it and then you're in a better spot. And then, like you said at the beginning, and then being there for someone else, 100%. Right? Like returning that favor.
Yeah. Because I heard once someone's like, we have all these acquaintances or even teammates or people, but then there's usually like 3 to 5, let's say like palms on a palm tree that are going to be your circle. Right. And you don't really have more than that. Yeah. To have that very deep that something's going on without them having to say it, like nonverbal. Like I know something's up with this person. I know their behaviors and I have maybe some unconditional love there regardless. And then you're like, you can change who those people are. And it's important to make sure that they are uplifting, right? Yeah. Because if they're not, you're fucked.
Right. Yep.
But then leveling up, you're like, I hope I'm on somebody's tree. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be on everybody's tree. We don't have that kind of bandwidth. But yeah, I hope I can be on somebody's tree, that. And then let me make sure I am checking in and being a touch point to someone who needs it,
Yeah, absolutely.
But
yeah, I think that's a great way. If we judge ourselves off of, am I the type of person that would be on someone else's tree? We're probably doing pretty good.
Totally. And then that's your purpose, right?
Exactly.
Because we're like, oh, it needs to be, saving the world. Well, yeah, we love to save the world. Yeah. Come on. We're all altruistic in that regard. But maybe it's just to be on somebody's motherfucking tree, dude. Like, and that's a huge thing because that's saving a person.
It is, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, all that energy, can still be it could be misplaced or it could be placed
Right.
for the better of humankind.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep. So as we kind of close out,
Yeah.
do you have anything that you want to share, or like a last, I don't want to say a last word, that sounds weird, something you want to share to the EOD techs or just anybody listening?
Well, first of all, I think this is great that you're doing this.
Appreciate it.
It's been fun to listen on previous ones. It's like, it's that touch point I was talking about, like, oh man, this is cool. Like, it's like back in the environment again.
Yeah.
So it's really cool what you're doing. So thank you for doing that. And any guys who are still in that are listening, this is great, you know, and like, hopefully they can take some things back and do things that we didn't do, you know?
Right.
One thing I'd like to say that I just learned about was the imposter phenomenon. And I feel like EOD, we struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's not necessarily a negative thing. So what the imposter phenomenon or imposter syndrome is feeling like you aren't good enough regardless of your successes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times high achievers feel that. And they've done studies on this. And they're like, wow. And there's a lot of high achievers in EOD, right? And it causes anxiety when it's misplaced because you're like, I don't really deserve to be here. Or you're the team chief or you're the LPO and you're like, dude, they're going to find out I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I think we already have enough anxiety. And I felt the same way as a woman. I'm like, they're going to find out I shouldn't be here. I'm only here because of this or that. But it's like we get in our own heads. And I think understanding that certain people have this we can be good leaders and create environments. Be like, I see that you're dealing with this. You are good enough. Go fucking do it. Put your head down and do it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's just a good way to measure humility. I think it needs to be there or else you won't ever try to strive for greatness.
Yeah.
But don't let it get in your way, if that makes sense.
I like it. Yeah, it does.
So that'd be the thing. My last.
Yeah. I think that's solid advice.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming and sitting
you.
down and talking. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks for doing what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Echo Oscar Delta podcast, where we talk to Navy EOD techs and hear the stories that they want to share.